Okay. Okay, we will start the class now. Wait a minute. I will share the screen now. Sorry, the usual problem. Okay. We will start the class now. Okay. So today we are going to see the day 29, 30 and 31 plan discussion. So day 29 and 30 are based on GS3, especially economy, issues, challenges and the measures taken by the government. So the first question is very easy to answer and it consists of two parts. Okay. The question is about among several factors for India's potential growth, savings rate is the most effective one. So they have given you the direct focus of the question, that is on savings rate. Do you agree? What are the other factors available for potential growth? So it is a 10-mark question. So 2 pages are only given for this question. So the focus of the question should be on savings rate and you should not explicitly write, yes, I agree with the statement and all. You should not write explicitly because by writing the introduction itself, that should deliver that whether you are agreeing with the statement or disagreeing with the statement. Okay. So the first part of the question should be covering the savings rate and its implications in India's potential growth. And the second structure, that is the second part of the question should be answered based on other factors which are available for the growth potential. So your main focus should be on the question, that is savings rate. And the second part of the question can be answered in 1/3 of the page. That's enough. Okay. So other factors. So the first part of the question should be answered in terms of giving a valid definition to the savings rate and what are all the countries, that is giving illustrations to the countries where the India, that is potential growth have been achieved due to higher savings rate and when India has come across highest saving rates. So that should be the first part of the, that is answer or layout for the first part of the question. So we can say just to give a definition based on savings rate. So they are nothing but the difference between income and the consumption. So we can say the savings rate determines the financial state of a country as well as the growth of the economy. That is, it contributes towards the GDP, gross domestic product of a country. Okay. So, and we know Harrod-Domer model will give you the importance or significance of the savings rate in an economy and its what we can say and its contribution towards economic growth. Okay, in a economic growth of a country or a nation. Okay, so we can say this is a vicious cycle. So if savings rate increases, investment also will increases, again the savings rate will increase and it will ultimately contribute to the growth of a country. That is, it will contribute higher percentage or higher proportion to the gross domestic product of a country. So we should Give a brief introduction on the savings rate and the significance of the savings rate too. Okay, so you can see here for the savings rate significance, you can illustrate, that is, you can give the answer in terms of points or in a paragraph. While we are writing about pros and cons or significance or measures, you have to answer it in the form of points. Then it will give the clear way of representing an answer. Okay, so whenever we are giving definition, you can write it in paragraph, but in terms of measures or pros and cons or significance or role, okay, you have to give it in point wise, then only it will clearly what we can say represent your ideas in the paper. Okay, it will help the examiner too to correct the paper. Okay, because a neat presentation is also needed to deliver our points. Okay, so based on the significance of savings rate, I have given certain examples of China and also India. We can say during the period, that is fiscal year from 2001 to 2008, for almost 7 fiscal years, India reached highest growth savings during the period due to the contribution of savings rate in a higher proportion during those years. Okay, so and also now we have to answer the other factors which are needed for the growth potential, and also you have to give some what are the types of savings. We can say physical saving as well as the financial saving. Financial savings includes all the investments, FDI, FPAs, anything can be included under financial saving. But in terms of physical saving, we can say gold, commodities, and real estate, land. Okay. So what are all the other factors for growth potential? So it is a 2-page question. Okay, just a 10-mark question. You need not explain briefly all the subheadings here. So for gross capital formation, infrastructure, regulation, research and development, automation, ease of doing business, stability in politics, you don't need to illustrate everything in a brief manner. Okay, as it is a 10-mark question, this is itself enough. Okay, so you have to divide the question into 2 parts. First one should consist of the focus of the question on savings rate. It should cover 2/3 of the page, and the second part, other factors, should cover just 1/3 of the page. So as it is a 10-mark question, you don't need to explain all the subheadings in a brief manner. Okay, if possible, you can just write the explanation in just 1 line if possible. Okay, so if you think some other factors are very important, like gross capital formation, regulation, infrastructure, skill training, you can, or ease of doing business, you can substantiate either 5 headings in a brief manner, and all the other headings as apart from these are all the factors which are responsible for the India's potential growth. Okay, this is also a way of representing your answer. That's all. Shall we move on to the second question? Okay, the second question is about account for the failure of manufacturing sector in achieving the goal of labor-intensive exports rather than capital-intensive exports. Suggest measures for more labor-intensive rather than capital-intensive exports. Very good question. As after the post-COVID economy, we are facing this in a huge manner. We can say the Wire or the Indian Express article will help you in reading about the post-COVID-19 economy, especially in terms of manufacturing sector. Also, you can refer to the Yojana book, I think so, February edition, based on post-COVID-19 economy. That will give you a clear-cut idea to answer this question. Okay, so this question has, we can say, 3 parts, because first you have to give your answer for failure of the manufacturing sector. First thing. So first thing is on failure of the manufacturing sector in terms of labor intensive exports. Okay. Second, you have to mention about what are all the what we can say role or significance of the labor intensive exports than capital intensive exports. Third part should contain the measures which can be taken by the government to promote labor intensive rather than the capital intensive. Okay, because labor intensive will involve employment, okay, skill training, capacity building, and more or less infrastructure. Especially we can say migration and transportation will involve here. Okay, so Just to give a brief introduction in terms of manufacturing sector's contribution towards GDP, because always we can say after 1991 reforms, our agrarian economy jumped or shifted to the service sector economy, that is tertiary sector, without what we can say, without coming across or shifting towards the secondary and then tertiary. So we have jumped from primary to the tertiary, and we lost the secondary sector here. So that's why till now India is lagging behind the manufacturing sector. As per Index of Industrial Production data has suggested that industrial output has reduced by 1.9% as in the case of 2020 November month, during November month, because of the COVID-19 impact. Though we can say when the manufacturing sector is given importance and when it get boomed, then we can say unemployment will not be a havoc to our country, and we can bridge the gap between primary and the service sector, and we can bridge all the inequalities in our country through the enhancement or improvement of manufacturing sector. Okay, that's why the emphasis on skill India or make in India or Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant economy, has been always in focus in our country, because manufacturing sector has a higher multiplier effect in employment as well as growth. If we rely on our own manufactured products, our GDP will increase and our external commercial borrowings will get reduced, and we can say our fiscal deficit will also ultimately will get decreased. Okay, so we can, but in our country, the powerhouse for the growth engine, that is the manufacturing sector, has not achieved its reasonable target till now. Okay, that's why the government has been taking all the necessary steps starting from 2015, we can say. Okay, so what are the reasons for the low labor intensive exports? So this is the second part of the question which should be answered, because regulatory burden were there. Okay, where more regulatory norms were there, because we have started our reforms, that is LPG reforms from 1991, from license range to competition commission. Okay, so we can say we have more regulatory burden like customs duty. Okay, not that is inaccessible to IT or ITES. So more regulatory burden were there, and that is we can simply say ease of doing business infrastructure is very much less in terms of legal or legislations. Okay, limited access to the low cost finance, underdeveloped skill set of the workforce, because manufacturing sector is the place where you can see the skilled and the unskilled. That is, unskilled laborers will have more contribution than the skilled ones, as not unlike in service sector. So underdeveloped skill set of the workforce were there, and digital and physical infrastructure is lagging in our country. Okay, that's why government has been improving e-commerce platform and all to improve the digital infrastructure, at least in our country, to promote the manufacturing sector. Especially we can say MSMEs, medium, small and micro enterprises were there, no? Okay, so manufacturing sector has recently in the budget 2020 to 21 has proposed their near term and the long term strategies to promote their higher contribution towards GDP. Okay, so we can say sorry, wait a minute. Okay, and we need sector specific issues to be addressed, and also we have to put forth the short term challenges as well as the remedial measures to those. Okay, and we can say what are all the sector specific and the short term challenges means liquidity is getting decreased in NBFCs, especially more NPAs were there, and consumer sentiments were very weak in our country in terms of manufacturing sector, and scrappage policy is also needed to be mandated for the old vehicles, because we are shifting to BS6 from BS4, no? So scrappage policy should also be mandated by giving compliments to the replacement of old vehicles with the new vehicles. Okay, these are all the short-term challenges and sector-specific issues we can say. And also we have to reduce the customs duty in terms of metal industry, and MSME sector should have simplification and automation of GST and other regulatory norms. Okay, that's why we can say Mudra, Yojana and all have been introduced to promote MSME sectors. But till now, we can say the simplification and automation of GST will also reduce the burden on MSME sectors. And what are the measures we have to give for more labor intensive than capital intensive means? Indigenous research and development capability should be introduced in our country, because we have to reduce our dependency on the imported technology and on other developed economies like US. Okay, and ease of doing business should be enhanced, as we have already told that through simplification and automation of reforms like GST. Okay, and also ease of and manpower skilling should be done through Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana Skill India campaign. Okay, and digitalization of the manufacturing sector should happen through incentivized sustainable practices and solutions. And also now we are giving more importance to the production linked incentive schemes, okay, in order to promote our manufacturing sector in terms of after the COVID-19 impact in our country. Okay, so that is the structure of the question, where it should be answered in three parts. First, we should give the contribution of manufacturing sector as of now in India. Second, the reasons for the lower that is labor intensive imports, and what are all the measures should be given to improve the labor intensive exports than the capital intensive exports. Okay, so that question is based on ethics. So this is also a very explicit question, and you have to think it, you have to give logical reasons behind it. So the Right to Information Act is not all about citizens empowerment alone. It essentially redefines the concept of accountability. So RTI gives the clear linkage between independence and accountability, we can say, because the November 2019 a judgment was given by Supreme Court that the Chief Justice office will also come under the ambit of RTI, because we know all the public authority like a Prime Minister's office or President office comes under the ambit of RTI Act 2005. The independent or integrated judiciary was not under the what we can say purview of RTI. So only during November 2019, the Chief Justice office comes under the purview of RTI Act 2005. So where we can say our Supreme Court is the sole guardian of our constitution. Okay, and they give they many oppositions were there regarding the purview of Chief Justice office under RTI, because Section 8 has denied certain personal information, that is personal information in terms of which is giving which is beyond the secrecy of a country, or we can say what are all the information should not be delivered publicly. Okay, if they are if they causes any commotion in our country, so those are the informations which are denied under Section 8 till now, that is since 2019 when the CJI office comes under the ambit of RTI. So this question should be answered in two parts. First, you should give a brief definition based on your opinion, that is what is accountability, and you have to, the second part of the question should contain other than citizen empowerment. So first you have to explain about citizen empowerment in terms of RTI, and what are all the other values which enhances the accountability with respect to Right to Information Act 2005. Okay, this is how this question should be answered. This is a opinion based question, because ethics question is always your opinion. Okay, maybe this question looks like a governance part, but this question is purely based on your opinion, whether citizens empowerment is alone empowered as that is given by the RTI. What are all the other factors also which ensures accountability with respect to RTI? So just to give your points in a clear-cut manner, like first give a brief definition about the accountability and the role of the RTI in ensuring accountability, like illustrating so many developed economies are having RTI. Okay, from then only we have inspired our RTI during 2005. Okay, because RTI ensures the democracy and equality and clearly explains about our rule of law. That is, no one is above the law. And what are all the other parameters or factors is also covered by RTI other than citizen empowerment. First explain about the citizen empowerment and give one by one the subheadings and explain them briefly with some examples too. Okay, so I have given monitoring mechanism, decision making, okay, and intellectual democracy, because more the people get aware about their surroundings, about their government, the intellectual democracy will begin. Okay, consequently accountability will also get ensured in a transparent manner. Okay, so this is my opinion. Other than this, you can also add more points based on your perspective. So now we will move on to the day 30 plan. This is also based on economy. So explain the rationale behind the GST, Compensation to States Act 2017. How has COVID-19 impacted the GST compensation fund and created new federal issues? This question should be answered in 3 parts. Even though it is a 10-mark question with a 2-page allocation to this question, you have to answer it in 3 parts. First, just give a brief introduction to the GST Compensation to States Act 2017. And second, what is the rationale behind the GST? And the second part of the question is nothing but impact of COVID-19 on the GST compensation fund. Okay, generally, and how the COVID-19 impact created new federal tensions on the GST compensation fund. So that the question should be answered in 3 parts. The first part should contain giving a brief account of GST Compensation to States Act and rationale behind the GST Compensation to States Act 2017. Second part of the question should be answered with the impact of COVID-19 on GST compensation fund. The third part should consist of federal issues, new federal issues arise due to the COVID-19. Okay. So I have just given what is goods and services tax and how we created a common market through one nation, one tax policy, and GST compensation, giving a brief intro to the GST compensation, because under the GST compensation to States Act 2017, the states were guaranteed compensation for a period of 5 years from 2017 to 2022 by the center. Okay, so this is to reduce their difference in their revenue. Okay, that's why the center has made or proposed this idea. Okay, what is the rationale behind the GST compensation? This question can be answered very clearly from the what we can say summary of the GST Compensation to States Act. Okay, in PRS, if you read the GST Compensation to States Act 2017 summary from the PRS, you can answer it very clearly. Okay, and in an obvious manner. So, what is the rationale behind the GST compensation? Especially, first motive is to generate more revenue. Okay, because we have taken the decision of one nation, one tax in 2015. Okay, so that would make a large difference, or what we can say, a huge gap in the revenue generation in the states. That's why, to generate more revenue till a period of adapting to the GST from 2017 to 2022. So government center has proposed this idea of GST compensation to States Act, and it is in practice till now. Okay, so based on consumption, we have made this GST compensation, because we know GST is not based on manufacturing, is based on consumption. And next, delivering the idea of compensation to the states. So these are all the rationale behind the GST. You can also add more points based upon your opinion on reading the PRS, on reading from the PRS website. An impact of COVID-19 pandemic. So recently, in 41st GST Council meeting, the Union Finance Minister has asserted that Central will not be able to compensate the states, because already we were in a what we can say financial stress due after the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's why center has delivered, or we can say center has clearly put forward their stand. Okay, so GST revenue also get declined due to the COVID-19 pandemic due to the strict lockdown. Okay, during that time, what are all the new federal tensions arised due to the impact of COVID-19 on GST compensation? States were giving their opinion that even during before the pandemic, that is during August to September 2019, the center has delayed their compensation fund to the states. That was one of the very, what we can say, priority answer given by the states. Even during below the lockdown, the center has delayed their compensation fund. So this is not only due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the center has done even before the lockdown, strict lockdown. Okay, and several states we can say like Tamil Nadu, Punjab, Puducherry, okay, Kerala have raised their complaint on the center for not giving GST compensation, because already we know the states were in great financial crisis, because they have to spend or contribute higher percentage on the health sector. Okay, as it is the need of the hour at that time, and the finances of the states were under, that is center delayed the compensation fund even before the lockdown. That is also one of the reason put forward, that also raised the federal tensions between the center and the states. Okay, so what should be done by the center? That should be the, what is the what we can say, measure to be taken by the center should be your conclusion, because it is just a 2-page question. So after answering all the what we can say, the focus of the question, like first one is about the rationale behind the GST and impact of COVID-19 on GST compensation, and we can say the impact of the COVID-19 in creating or arising new federal tensions. So the conclusion should be, what all the measures should be taken. So the center has to take a cooperative mechanism in giving GST compensation fund through monetization. So that is direct monetization, like borrowing from RBI directly or borrowing from the financial markets. That is the only scope for the center to avoid this federal tensions to a greater extent. Okay, so the next question. This is a very good question. Women empowerment in India needs gender budgeting. What are the requirements and status of gender budgeting in the Indian context? Okay, this question should be answered in two manner. The first one should be answered, that is, what is the significance of, that is, what is the stand of the woman in India, and what is the significance of gender budgeting. And the second part of the question should be answered with, what are the requirements needed for the gender budgeting, and what is the status of the gender budgeting in India. So this question can be answered very clearly from the gender budgeting PDF, which is in Ministry of Women and Child Development website. Okay, just if you search it in Google in terms of gender budgeting in India, you will get a PDF from Ministry of Women and Child Development, where you will get all the details from 2001. Okay, start where the gender budgeting concept has started, has been initiated till now. Okay, so that is a very authenticated source to write this answer. Okay, as per 2011 census, 48% of the India's population has been occupied by women. So women were behind many social indicators like health, education, economic opportunities, everything in India. So we can say through the gender budgeting, the definition has been given, or definition or a very clear-cut explanation has been given regarding gender budgeting in that PDF. Okay, please read that. That is only the authenticated source to write this answer. Okay, so it is a very powerful tool for achieving the gender mainstreaming, because it will give awareness about the gender importance in the country, that is towards the GDP growth. Okay, as well as human development, or we can say sustainable development. Okay, so what is the rationale behind the gender budgeting? Resource allocation pattern will change regarding gender perspective, especially to women in terms of education, health, all the economic opportunities. Okay, and it will monitor the expenditure and public service regarding women, especially women perspective. And we can say gender differential impact will happen only after the gender budgeting in our country. Okay, we can see the differences before the gender neutral budget and the gender budgeting. Okay, and it will ensure the gender commitments because it will ensure more contribution from the women towards the development of the country, economic growth and development of the country, and it will help to identify and recognize the women beneficiaries in all the sectors. Okay, right from, we can say, from the primary sector till the service sector, and it will create or contribute gender responsive elements like gender equality will be ensured, human development will occur, and economic efficiency can be achieved. Okay, these are all the points which you can get only from the authenticated source of gender budgeting given in Ministry of Women and Child Development. Please go through that page to get a clear cut answer and to have a great and to have a very sound idea or sound knowledge of gender budgeting. So what are the, because this kind of what we can say, gender perspective should be read because you can use it in your ethics paper as well as essay paper. Okay, wherever the gender related questions have been asked. Okay, and requirements of the gender budgeting. So what are, because the second part of the question is about the requirements and third part of the question is about status of gender budgeting in India. So for the requirements of gender budgeting, they have given it in a step-by-step manner, but in order to conserve the words, I have written it in the form of a flow chart because first analysis should be done based on the census. Okay, and assessment should be done through addressing the issues and the gap which are faced by women in the country in terms of economy, social and political. Okay, so everything can be linked with the economy here while addressing the issues and gaps, because financial independence is the focus for women in our country, and adequacy of the budget allocation, whether the amount which have been allocated for gender perspective is adequate when compared with the previous year's budget allocation. Okay, and monitoring mechanism should be done because identifying and recognizing the women who are all the real beneficiaries should be done, no, whether they are implementing in a clear, that is in a transparent and it is reaching only the real beneficiaries or the bogus beneficiaries are getting benefited. Okay, assessment of the impact at last to enhance or improve our gender budgeting in the future years. Okay, this is the requirement of gender budgeting. GB means gender budgeting. And next one is about, third part of the question is about status of gender budgeting in India, because this is a 3-page question that is 12.5 marks, 200 words. You can lavishly use your words to write the answer. Lavishly use your words means technical words. Okay, or we can say parliamentary words which are given in the authenticated source. Okay, so not a generalistic statement or generalistic vocabulary should be used. Okay, specific words should be used here. So gender budget statement was first introduced in the Indian budget 2005 to 6. Okay, with a common but the idea of gender budgeting has occurred in the 2001 itself, in the year 2001 itself, and gender neutral ministries, that is gender budgeting cells, should be introduced through the general budgeting cells, CELLS. Okay, I have not mentioned here gender budgeting cells. Gender budgeting cells will help the general neutral ministries to design new programs for women, because general neutral ministries means other than Ministry of Women and Child Development, all other things are general neutral ministries only. So in all the ministries, gender budgeting cells should be there, and they will design new programs especially for women, either in culture or tourism or health and family welfare. Okay, or transport. Okay, and gender budgeting cells will encompass 4 phases. So step by step we have to satisfy all these things, like we can say knowledge building and networking, institutionalizing the process, capacity building, enhancing accountability. So these are all the 4 sequential phases which has to be clearly satisfied one by one to promote gender budgeting in India. Okay, so institutionalizing the process only has mandated the formation of gender budgeting cells. So these things has to be set up in our country, and we can say in 2019 to 20 budget, rather than the previous year's allocation for the gender budgeting, 2019 to 20 has allocated higher proportion of amount for the women, for the gender budgeting in our country. That's all. So in future years too, after the post COVID-19 economy, because we have already seen some questions based on women and COVID-19 pandemic in society paper itself. So taking into account of all these, our country should allocate more amount to the gender, that is especially women empowerment, women, to increase their contribution in our country's economic growth for a sustainable development, because gender equality should be ensured of, because that is also one of the sustainable development goals 5, and the sustainable development goal 16 ensures reduced inequalities. That reduced inequalities will also take into account of gender. Okay. Third question is about society. The current, that is not society, ethics and society. Okay. The current internet expansion has instilled a different set of cultural values which are often in conflict with the traditional values. Yes. After the digitalization, our traditional values has been diminishing, and new set of values like westernization has increased a lot. Okay. Global village concept has increased a lot in our country. Okay, like we can say, so just give your opinion based on the diminishing of cultures as traditional values of our country, and an arising or emergence of new set of cultural values in our country. So we can say materialism, consumerism, and what we can say, individual representation has become more common than the communal harmony or general interest. Okay, so these are the ideas, or what we can say, layout for this question. So you have to mention all the nuances which are faced by our country, faced by the society due to the internet expansion. So just to give a brief introduction about the impact of digital infrastructure in the society. And second part of the question should be, that is first part of the question should be answered with how it instilled the different set of values, and the second part of the question should be answered where the how it come into conflict with the traditional values. That's all. Okay, first one should be emergence of new different set of cultural values. Second part should show the conflict with the traditional values. That's all. So it's my opinion and it's my perspective. So you write your own set of answers. Just I will show you that new set of values means global village concept has occurred now. Representation of individualism has happened, has been more. Okay, show off category. We can now show off our representation of self or individual rather than the community or cosmopolitan nature. Consumerism is enhanced because while we are using social media, we can say commodities or services knowingly or unknowingly getting accumulated in our pages. Okay, consumerism has enhanced, and people are getting rated with their products. Okay, new set of values. And next, expenditure on individual has increased rather than value of savings get reduced for the representation of a individual in a digital world. Altruistic behavior has disrupted, has reduced only during danger, or we can say disaster times. The altruistic behavior has been shown, and most probably the altruistic behavior is also digitally or virtually represented. Okay, and the individualism has reduced to a narrower what we can say, narrower mode of thinking, and humanity had reduced only during the disaster times. The humanity value can be seen in in the society, and not at all the times. Okay, and the individualism has reduced. The individualism has been reduced to a narrower self-filled corner. Okay, more of self-interest than the general interest has um, has been shifted in our society. So These are all the new set of values, and where we can say it get conflict with our traditional values like cosmopolitan nature, communal harmony, general interest, subjugation of self-interest for the general interest. So these are all where we can say the traditional values are getting conflicted with the new set of values. Okay, so the at last we can say the digitalization has its own positive and negative impacts in our society. So it is purely based on the priority and proposition of an individual. So digital literacy and digital, we have to give awareness about the digital literacy in terms of ethical, or we can say cultural values too. Okay. At last we have come to the day 31 plan. The day 31 plan is based on culture, art and culture. So the first question is about Krishna Deva Raya, the king of Vijayanagar, not only an accomplished scholar himself, but was also a great pattern of learning and literature. Discuss. Very, very straight question, because this question should be answered in two parts. First one is about contribution of Krishna Deva Raya towards art and literature. Second part, how he has been the pattern of literature, how he has been the appreciating others for the literature during his empire. Okay, so this question can be answered from the NCERT's book itself, old NCERT medieval India and new NCERT themes too. Okay, if you read the Vijayanagara kingdom, Vijayanagara and Bahmani kingdom lesson, you will get all the points for Krishna Deva Raya. Okay, the first part should consist of his how he has been an accomplished scholar. So he was known as Abhinava Boja. He was well versed in Sanskrit, Kannada and Tamil. He wrote many drama, that is play, as well as his Telugu work Amukta Malyada was a great one, and his Sanskrit work like Madalasa Charita is also a notable literature. Okay, this question need a more memory capacity for you, because this if you memorize all these points, you can easily eliminate the options or pick up the correct option in the prelims especially, and you can answer it in a very great manner during interview also. So this question is purely based on your memory capacity. So you have to revise more and more of Vijayanagara and Bahmani kingdom, especially while you are answering, creating a template for your art and culture. You should revise more times. Okay, then only you can write the answer in a within 7 to 10 minutes for this kind of question, because this question specifically needs all the important works, okay, important contributions of Krishna Deva Raya towards literature. So where you have to clearly write his work, his contribution. Okay, second part of the question, great pattern of learning and literature, where you have to give about his Ashtajigadas. Everyone will know. Okay, just if you go through the Vijayanagar kingdom itself, you will write about the Ashtajigadas, because his period was known as the golden age of Telugu literature. Okay, Allasani Peddana was given the title Andhra Kavita Pitamaha, and also a Sanskrit scholar. Also, we can say, wait a minute, a Sanskrit scholar Vaisatrita, who was his Rajaguru, okay, noble minister, also wrote Nyayamrita, which was against the Advaita philosophy, and many works has been done by him, and also he has patronized the Kannada poet like Timmanna also. So these are all the things you have to memorize frequently, write the answer within the short period of 7 to 10 minutes. Okay, this question is more of your based on your memory capacity. So you have to read and revise frequently from the themes too, as well as old medieval India. Okay, next question. Next question is a analytical or logical question. Okay, this doesn't need more of memory and all. Okay, if you know the concept of our Indian civilization, you can write it well. The ancient civilization in Indian subcontinent differed from those of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Greece in that its culture and traditions have been preserved without a breakdown to the present day. because in this question they are asking you to comment. Okay, so you have to give the pros and cons as well as the measures. Okay, it is 12.5 marks, means you have to write it in 3 pages almost. So this question is about our Indian civilization has not break down its values even today. It has been preserved. But the oldest civilizations which are contemporary to our Indus Valley civilization or Harappan, Indus Valley civilization, Egypt, Mesopotamia and Greece have been diminished because they have not preserved, they have not been preserved. But till now, the ancient Indian civilization has been preserved. Okay, and it is practiced even today in one way or the other. So first part of the question should consist of the reasons why Egypt, Mesopotamia and Greece civilization has been diminished. Second part of the question should consist of how the oldest or the ancient civilization of India is still relevant today. Okay, so you can see here reasons behind the Egypt, especially Islamic country. It has become Islamic country now. They were opposed to the polytheistic beliefs, many religious beliefs and Christianity in the past. And in terms of Mesopotamia, which is the present day Iraq and Syria, we can say, that was called the cradle of civilization. Okay, Mesopotamian civilization was called as the cradle of civilization. So enriched heritage were seen those times, but they also, due to the presence of numerous religions in the past and many practices and many practices have been followed by them, and now they have become purely Islamic. So those have been discontinued, those practices have been discontinued after a very brief period. Okay, in Greece we can say they worship nature. Okay, and theirs too, because they followed many practices, we can say they will worship supernatural elements, nature, and after a brief period we can say Christianity and Islam has been followed by large people. Okay, so these are all the reasons why their culture were not preserved and their practices and traditions have been diminished. But why India? Till now we can say our India has preserved its culture and traditions. There is no breakdown in this because there till now we are having sacred groves. Okay, and we are worshipping nature, mother goddess, Pashupati, which are all worshipped even during Harappan civilization and Vedic era. And till now the importance of trade was there, and cattle and yajanas practice was there. Okay, and jewelry, ornaments, okay, games like chess and dice are even now practiced in our country. Okay, and the diet pattern is also followed because till now we can say the staple food has become wheat, paddy. Okay, and till now there are many institutions where Vedas and Upanishads were taught voluntarily and interestingly among people, and deity worship was still relevant today, like Shiva, Brahma, Indra. Okay, so ours has been preserved and continued till in this 21st century because of the continuation of the policies, continuation of the principles, continuations of the customs and traditions since the ancient period, like IBC and Vedic and all. Okay, this is due to the contribution of our people's behavior as well as the ministry or the government contribution, like Ministry of Culture and Ministry of Tourism has been preserving our culture and traditions to showcase to the world. Okay, though we have certain differences now, but the crux or the core of our practices are still now relevant in India. Okay, so third question, this is a very direct question. This comes under the important contributions of philosophers and thinkers from India and the world. Okay, very direct question. Discuss Mahatma Gandhi's concept of seven sins, which you can get it from the Mahatma Gandhi's website of celebrating 150th birth anniversary. Okay, Mahatma Gandhi has always been, and this is given in all the ethics books. Okay, like which is based on UPSC preparation. Okay, while if you are while you are reading about the important contributions of the philosophers and thinkers in India and the world, you will read about Mahatma Gandhi's seven sins concept. Okay, because already we have seen John Rawls concept. Now we are seeing about Mahatma Gandhi's concept of seven sins. So here you cannot write as though your seven sins. Okay, yours concept of seven sins. You have to write clear cut answer for this, because the seven sins of Mahatma Gandhi should be memorized. Like we have eightfold path of Buddha and all, no, like that. Okay, his seven sins concept is politics without principle, business without morality, wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, and science without humanity, at last religion without sacrifice. These are all the concept of seven sins by Mahatma Gandhiji, put forward by Mahatma Gandhiji. So each and this is a 2-page question. So each and every concept or the heading should be explained briefly with an example. So I have given my perspective here. For example, if you see politics without principle, we can say without public welfare should be the principle underlying for the politicians or the political party or the ruling government. So which can disrupt that, means example corruption and bribing will disrupt that. Okay, and religion without sacrifice, if you see rather than superstitious beliefs or practices, the motto or the vision of religion is to, or we can say the basic root of religion is to promote compassion and dedication to public service among the people. But now we can see untouchability. For example, we can say untouchability, black magic, communal triads. These are all the things where we can say as a consequence of religion without sacrifice. Okay, knowledge without character, we can say terrorism. Okay, and business without morality, we can say capitalism. Wealth without work, theft, crime. Okay, these are all the this is how the question should be answered, and you can also illustrate each and every heading with your own opinion. Okay, without diminishing the what we can say crux given by Mahatma Gandhiji. That's just, you can illustrate the examples in your way, but it should not damage or get away from the focus of the question, that is of Mahatma Gandhiji's seven sins concept. That's all. Very direct question. So we have come to the last part of the session now. So after 2 days, we will again meet with the day 31 and day 32 plan. Okay. Till then, thank you and have a good day. Thank you.